Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Tuesday morning and let's get straight into this one. Want to catch us up on the latest things that have been coming out regarding Bryan Kohberger. He's in court later today, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. He will be in court for his extradition hearing. It has been said by reporters who have got sources that within 72 hours he will be back in Idaho, after which time hopefully the arrest affidavit will be made public and we'll get to find out at least some of the background as to what the police have, how they caught this guy. It won't be everything they've got, it's just enough probable cause to arrest him. They're not going to give their hand away, right, in this documentation. But I've been documenting things that his prior students have said, things that people who knew him in the past have said, and there's more of that coming out. So let's get into that before we get into the latest about what the police might have. We know that he graduated from Northampton Community College in Pennsylvania with an Associate of Arts degree in psychology in 2018. He then went on to receive his bachelor's degree from Pennsylvania's DeSales University in 2020, and then he finished his graduate studies there at DeSales with a master's degree in May of 2022. One of his past tutors said that he was the brightest student she'd ever had and one of only a handful that she'd recommended to go on to PhD studies. It's interesting that he chose to study psychology, criminal justice and criminology. Was he trying to understand himself? Was he doing the me search, as I've suggested in previous videos, but while simultaneously trying to learn how to commit the perfect crime? I think probably both of those things sit behind his choice of degree subjects. Now, I did a live very early this morning, my time, last night for most of you who are watching this video, but I was asked a question as to whether it was his studies that caused him to kill or whether it was his desire to kill that caused him to study the topics that he did. And I think it's the latter. It's his desire to understand the killer nature inside himself, assuming, of course, he committed these crimes, assuming, of course, that he will be found guilty in a court of law. Personally, I believe the police have got the right man, but it does remain to be seen. It is alleged at this current time, until he's found guilty in a court of law, then he is innocent till proven guilty. But let's just assume that the police have got the right man. And like BTK, like Ted Bundy, like other people who went on to kill multiple people in horrendous ways, you know, some of the most horrific serial killers we've ever known, understood the law, understood psychology, understood criminology. Was Bryan Kohberger trying to follow in those footsteps? Yes, I believe he was, but that is just my personal opinion. But if we talk about some of the things that are being said about him, friends are coming out of the woodwork left, right and centre to tell us about the background of Bryan Kohberger. At Pleasant Valley High School, he was known as an awkward creep, an outcast who repelled girls and reportedly struggled with a heroin addiction. We've heard from a prior friend, Cassie, about his heroin addiction in high school, very early on in his life to develop a heroin addiction. Somebody called Deja Mann, who is now 27, was in the same grade as Bryan, and said he didn't have many friends. If he tried to flirt with a girl or anything, they'd get a weird feeling in their stomach. I had that feeling towards him too, she said. My instinct was creeper vibes, and I tried to keep my distance from him. She said she was helped in class by Kohberger's mother, who never spoke about Bryan. Interesting, isn't it? I feel so sorry for her and Bryan's family right now. They didn't deserve this, said Deja Mann. Kohberger was extremely overweight when he started school, a former classmate noted, and then when he returned to school for his senior year, he was rail thin. When he was overweight, he was bullied. But after the weight loss, he went from victim to aggressor. So he's been paranoid about his weight. He's been bullied for his weight. He's gone completely the other way, perhaps developed an eating disorder, which is why he became so thin and gaunt. And we see relatively recent pictures, back as far as 2020, just only a couple of years ago, of him being really, really thin. Is that background of him being bullied? Has he fought back in his own way against the girls that were unattainable, maybe against girls that laughed at him? Is he the typical incel? Is this the most extreme form of incel behaviour? I think it probably could be. Someone called Ashley said that there was a lot of bullies at Pleasant Valley in general, and a lot of people were bullied. Bryan just wanted to fit in with the popular kids, this person said. I don't want to say he was weird, but he didn't have any social skills and didn't know how to make friends. He was just awkward. But he was very academically gifted. As I said, one of his previous tutors, who is an associate professor at DeSales University, someone called MichelleAfterDark, said, he was one of my best students ever. And she said she was as shocked as shit by Kohberger's arrest. In my 10 years of teaching, I've only recommended 2 students to a PhD program, and he was one of them, she said. So he's only been at Washington State University for 1 semester. So are there crimes in Pennsylvania? Maybe lower level crimes, maybe not murders, but lower level crimes that can be attributed to him. What is in between this victim turned aggressor, the bullied turned the bully? Is there anything between that type of behaviour and a quadruple murder? Is there something in the middle? Was there a continued escalation of behaviour from his teens to where we are now at age 28, where he is accused of a quadruple murder, stabbing 4 students to death? Why did he choose those students? Why did he choose that household? We've yet to know a motive. I suspect it was hate. I've said all along this looks to me like a hate crime. But there's also an element of thrill in there as well. I've said that well before Bryan Kohberger was known to any of us. It looked on paper like he had a budding career in criminology, but this antisocial nature, this lack of social skills has perhaps impaired him. There was a resident who lived in the same apartment block as him at Washington State University who said anonymously, it seems like he never slept because he was always doing something all night, said his downstairs neighbour. He was normally a very late night person, going to the bathroom and vacuuming at 1 a.m. The neighbour, who asked to remain anonymous, said Kohberger was almost always alone. Once you could hear a woman in his apartment through the walls, but that was a rare occasion. Who was that woman? Did he have a girlfriend at one point? Did he have one friend who was a woman? People, his students have said, and his classmates have said, that he would turn up to class late. Somebody called Benjamin Roberts, who was a fellow grad student at Washington State University, told NewsNation, I did notice he was showing up to class a little late sometimes. He always had a coffee in hand. He always seemed perpetually exhausted. Bryan seemed like he was on a knife's edge between exhaustion and worn out, but at that time it was extremely difficult to tell which was which. The classmate describes him as awkward and egotistical. So this awkwardness has followed him from childhood into adulthood. He's never learned social skills. He's never learned how to be a nice person. And he's probably been praised for his intelligence, and he's probably welcomed that praise. And he's now kind of grown into a man who considers himself smarter than everybody else. And Roberts said he had to make absolutely sure you knew he was smart. He had this intellectual capacity. Both his students and his classmates said that his behaviour changed after the murders. This person, Robert, said he did seem to get a little chattier going into the later portions of the term. Now, was that due to the fact that he had this release, he had this euphoria, from the pent-up frustration? Did the murders unleash a relaxation onto him, a euphoria that made him calm down? Perhaps. Or maybe he was just getting more comfortable with people in that area. But it's numerous people that are coming out saying the same things, which is just really, really interesting. I do believe these people. In my live I did early this morning, the title of that live was "What is True and What Isn't?" We know that the TikToker that some people said was Bryan Kohberger is absolutely not him. It's highly likely that the social media accounts that people are talking about, that people are assuming are him, were not him. It's my hunch, and it is just a hunch, that none of the social media accounts that people are talking about were him. That he wasn't someone who used social media. He wasn't someone who needed social media. In my opinion, that is just my opinion. We do have some information, allegedly, from one of the moderators of a subreddit, this inside-looking account that people have said was Bryan Kohberger wasn't. That's just alleged from a moderator of one subreddit. I don't think he's the type of person that would use social media, that would chat on social media. Having said that, I think he probably has been watching. He has been probably laughing at people blaming Hoodie Guy, people blaming Jack D, him thinking that he's got away with the perfect crime. This young man who grew from an awkward teen into an awkward adult, not able to communicate well with people, not able to secure maybe girls that he fancied, these girls who were unattainably attractive. Patrons at the Seven Sirens Brewing Company said that Kohberger would go in there, this is in Pennsylvania, but usually sat alone, observing and watching. His behaviour caused enough concern for staff to put a note on the company system about him. "Hey, this guy makes creepy comments, keep an eye on him," was noted in the system. He'll have 2 or 3 beers and then just get a little bit too comfortable. He would ask female staff and customers who they were with and where they lived. If the women weren't interested, he would get upset with them a little bit. The bar owner said he called an employee a bitch when she didn't respond to his creepy questions. But we know that, at least on paper, in a statement to the press, his family are standing by him, that his closest kin are saying that they love him and they are fully cooperating with law enforcement in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence rather than judge on unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions. But other family members have said that he's very weird. An aunt by marriage said that he was very weird. His eating habits very restrictive, way beyond a plant-based diet, way beyond that. Was that part of his eating disorder? Was that part of his obsession? Maybe an OCD type reaction he was having regarding cleanliness. But did that cleanliness contribute to him committing the perfect crime? Was he able to get in and get out with his knowledge of criminal justice and criminology and the criminal mind? Was he able to commit the perfect crime? Which leads me on to evidence that the police might have collected. They've been gathering new evidence from his apartment, from his office at Washington State University. They've carried out boxes and suitcases and all sorts of things from his apartment. Nancy Liu, a reporter for NewsNation, has been there the whole time, and she said that his computer stack has come out, suitcases have come out. We don't know whether they've found the murder weapon. I suspect they haven't, but we don't know whether they've found anything in that apartment. Fibres that might have been left at his apartment. So they'll have done, forensic swabbing. He might think he's got in and got out of 1122 King Road. Perhaps if he wore gloves and a mask. Now, it is alleged, and it is only alleged, the The police won't confirm or deny this, but allegedly DNA was found at the scene. Allegedly, it has been matched forensically to a family member. We only have that assumption. It's come out in the media, but it's not been confirmed by law enforcement. I will stress that. But fibres from the victims that might have made their way to his apartment or his car. One commentator said, well, he can't have committed the perfect crime at all because he didn't ditch that Elantra. He used that Elantra to drive back to Pennsylvania. Anybody who was clever would have ditched that car. But he didn't, because perhaps he was too comfortable. He perhaps thought he'd committed the perfect crime, that he'd gone in there and been able to beat everybody. His intelligence maybe give him a false sense of security, that he'd covered all bases, that he'd planned for any eventuality, but maybe it went wrong. Maybe victims fought back. We've heard from Xana's dad, we've heard from Kaylee's dad, that there was defensive wounds. So did he cut himself? Did he leave blood that he didn't intend to? Did he leave fibres in the Elantra? He probably did. And if they could be matched to things on the victims, then it's another set of evidence against him. He thinks he's going to be exonerated, but he's got a long road to travel. And I think he's perhaps very, very naive. You know, thinks he's an expert in criminal justice, when actually he's no expert. He's made a huge amount of mistakes. Perhaps. It remains to be seen. Now, I will be live later. The court hearing is just a formality. There's no cameras in the courtroom, but there will be reporters in there who will be tweeting. So I will be live to find out what we can from that court hearing. So look out for the scheduler later today. But let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. I've been Michelle. Hope you're well. I'll see you in the next video. It's goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer. Bye, guys.